Welcome back, everyone, to LCS Proving Ground Summer 2021. I hope you got your snacks, your beverages, whatever you need to do. I sure did. I was just telling Smacks, or maybe putting him through having to listen through the mic of me eating jerky, but I just needed to make sure I was ready with the energy that this matchup deserves, Smacks, because I don't think a lot of people were expecting Resolve to pull off the upset here against Cloud9, unless you've tuned into some of their past performances back in spring.
Yeah, in Spring Proving Grounds, it's good to remember that they were the 15th seed in that tournament as well, and in the round one, they took down the second seed 2-0, and that was Team Liquid Academy. So, potentially doing the same thing, history repeating itself. They did complete step one already, but I feel like we're gonna need to strap in again. We're strapped in with the regular seatbelt. I feel like we gotta roller coaster it. We gotta put like one of those big bars over our heads at this point because we are in for another wild ride. If that was just game one, what a way to open out this series for both teams, really.
Truly the case. This was a game that was getting somewhat cracked open by Cloud9. They were bringing all of that pressure towards the top side after Darshan had gotten the first blood, really punishing Orin playing on weak side. But as soon as we saw Resolve leaning into that pack mentality, really working as a unit to find their picks and opportunities, they're able to turn this around. And these final moments that led to the overall victory for Resolve were even ones that could have kind of went either way depending on how the damage went.
I'm remembering all of these team fights as they're happening on the reruns here. It's like we're just going back in time. I'm sure that we're gonna have a lot of replays in this montage, though. I'm remembering this one was a lot earlier in the game than the moments that you're mentioning here, where we're getting these crazy team fight moments, specifically for Array. I think it's really good to mention for Array, the newcomer to the squad on Resolve. When they changed the name to Resolve from Barrage, they also made one change. They sent Gorica off to TSM Amateur, and they brought in Array from the Supernova squad of Spring. And while they haven't had the same amount of success, I would say, as they did with Gorica, Array really popped off in this series, and we're seeing it in team fights like this, where he's getting triple kills as really the only damage threat on his team, having to deal with all the crowd control, all the dive threat that's being thrown his way, just making the team fights work wonders on this high-octane reset-style champion.
Yes, and the fact that he could stay in those fights because he was such a great source for them, and the rest of the team enabling him to do so, just ECL, for instance, just died on our screen in that moment, right? But it was for the possibility of APA and Array pushing in that mid lane to grab that inhibitor as well. And then that fight just continued on from there, where everyone just tried to rotate from their existing location to where the enemy was rotating from.
Did you see how much damage Array just did to copy in that fight too, by the way? 100-0 with just the one E and a bunch of auto attacks. Ridiculous stuff. And here we get to see the team fight that really broke me, where Fnatic... I'm just going to let this happen. I'm not going to say anything. Just watch.
Yeah, look at this, friends. If you didn't see it before, Zoom, Bap, Bop resurrects and is just ready to go in once again onto Darshan, and Array right there to follow up.
Amazing snap decisions from the members of Resolve, and it's stuff like that and their pack mentality that we keep referencing that let them win against Team Liquid Academy in the spring, and let them win this first game against Cloud9 Academy as well. They're one step away from completing that 2-0 yet again, but for Cloud9, they are now on that last leg. They might be sent down to that lower bracket. And after a 41-minute grueling game where they ended up just barely losing out, that is not the thing that you want to be thinking about right now as you go into the draft for Game 2.
And C9A, they know how to pull themselves up from the bootstraps for a different result. We saw them do so while they did fall to Team Liquid Academy in the Academy Finals during their semifinal against EG. I believe it was a reverse sweep. So they know how it feels to have to keep your mental in it. But from a competitive standpoint, looking at the play, C9 choosing to stay onto blue side. They did have a decent amount of control across the earlier portions of the game, really playing into Darshan at top. Is there anything else that you would like to see from their strategy, Smacks, or is it just not opening up opportunities for Resolve to get those picks later and really get Array into a comfortable position?
I feel like the biggest reason why those team fights were so close is because the real only sustained damage threat in that game was Array Interest. We saw that pretty much everyone else in the game was either setup damage for burst with pick potential, like Varus Chain of Corruption or Twisted Fate Gold card, etc., or frontline. You had like Orin, Braum, Renekton, Galio, just everyone was one of those two categories or somewhere in between, except for Array. And I think that that's something that Cloud9 and Resolve alike need to acknowledge when we get into this next draft, and maybe seeing that both teams are very keen on picking heavy frontline, put in another marksman or another late game champion, something like a Cassio, Ryze, or Azir if you want magic damage, and exploiting the fact that these team fights are going very long and sustained damage would definitely help.
And speaking of trying to have somebody really with that carry power, King, was on the Varus, but was admittedly going more towards that utility build and offering for the team. So there wasn't as much to follow up in that regard. If you're looking for a way to match what the Tristana on the other side for Array was bringing on through. So as we get here into our second game, our champions select, bans are going to be the same right off the top. A Soul targeted towards APA. Ryze, a pick that would work both for Copy and APA with what they want to do, but just not somebody that anyone wants to deal with a continuation of mid lane ban focus for Resolve, and then a little bit of a mix through and through for C9.
Moving out that Twisted Fate, again hindering the roam potential of APA's champion pool. Taking out that second one of Twisted Fate means that he could still go for something like a Galio, but we're seeing that maybe he plays more lane focused this time around for Resolve. Is an instalock of this Aphelios though, an Array definitely showing that they are keenly aware that those team fights are going long and they want to get more damage, even more than the Tristana.
Yeah, the champion changes, but it is still that same idea. Array, whatever happens earlier on, just make sure that you are that threat that you need to be at the later portions of the game as opposed to earlier. C9, they want to stick with the Varus. You notice the Ziggs was banned away, which was a topic of conversation during our last series, but it brings to mind the thought that for Cloud9, I think one of the most interesting things about this team has been a lot of their versatility and how they approach the draft, having Copy on some of these melee pieces and willing to take different types of damage for himself, and then King has been flexible in that way, but we're seeing him more with this traditional style, and now a very traditional bot lane in total, having Varus alongside the Nautilus, who can really catch someone out. But the Thresh also taking off the ban block here today, Smacks.
In favor of Twisted Fate, so Winter gets his hands on the very prized support of Thresh. He can really do it all. Dark Passage keeps his friends safe, and everything else keeps the enemies at bay, so I'm liking this pick a lot. It pairs obviously very well with the Aphelios. This is a tale as old as time, it feels like, for these two. And locking in the Ornn yet again for PCL, he feels very confident in this as a counter pick to anything that Darshan wants to do. And after that last game, he went down very, very heavily in the lane. As I believe I mentioned, it was not really so gracefully of a defeat for him, but it ended up being completely fine as the game went really, really late into the game. And if they can do that again for Resolve, it might be tough on the players' mentals and maybe our vocal cords as well, but it would be great for Ornn.
And I think that's exactly what they're hoping for. They've got, these later game team fight champs. They got the Ornn Horn. They said, you know what, PCL, you did okay. I know that you had a lot of pressure, but you handled it well mentally, and we're ready for what you can do later on. Now, with Lee Sin being banned away, It's actually Trundle that is getting locked in currently on the side of Resolve.
Trundle as an expectation that there's going to be more frontline for Cloud9 Academy. I think that makes a lot of sense. There is also a Nautilus too, so you do already have at least one Subjugate target. Ooh, okay, so Copy locking in his Azir. I like this a lot. This is that magic damage, sustained damage that I mentioned before, and Resolve are clearly already locking in a lot of frontline for themselves. They have Trundle, they have Ornn, they even have a Thresh who's pretty tanky in his own right, so Copy getting a lot of damage in his side, and Schernfire too. Cloud9 actually don't have a lot of frontline at all. They've gone completely the opposite way, and as you mentioned, very versatile in the draft, showing it to us in Game 2.
They really want to hit them hard. That is for sure with the lineup that they've brought. We've seen a copy on the Azir. We actually saw a Kindred already earlier on today, and now get to see another one here for C9A. So how do you think that this pick operates within this composition compared to what we saw earlier?
Well, again, we're seeing it as a counter pick response to Trundle, and I think that is likely where we will see it in the rest of Proving Grounds as well. It seems like these teams are keenly aware that this is the pick to play if you want sustained damage and if you are against Trundle. So I think that's definitely the case here, but it feels like it's slightly easier to play this time around. It's not like you're going to get a lot of early camp invades when you're against a Syndra who has a lot of early game priority, but you have a lot of targets to hit. This Ornn does get shredded by Kindred, especially if you have a ton of marks, because you have the shred health damage on your E, your W's dealing more damage, and you get mixed damage too with the Wolf. So I feel like this is a really good spot to pick it in, and for Resolve, they have to worry about a lot of sustained damage this time around. They can't just build armor, for instance, and have it completely shrug off the entire enemy team. There's an Azir there. Likewise, you can't just build full magic resistance. There's the rest of the team.
Yeah, and on the other side of it, yes, they have a lot to worry about with the type of damage that can be hitting Resolve pretty hard, but they got the Syndra, they have the Aphelios, they have these picks that they want to work towards getting in a strong position, but it could be difficult to get there, Smack. So with both of these drafts here in your head, who do you think is going to come out on top? Is it C9A trying to pressure them as much as possible, or is it Resolve getting to their team fight?
I'm gonna buy in, Latigris. I'm doing it. I'm getting excited for Resolve. I'm feeling like it's gonna be a repeat of spring. I'm buying into the hype. They looked really, really powerful in those last team fights that we just saw in Game 1. And I'm liking the fact that they're sticking with a lot of the same pieces. They still have PCL on this Ornn, who looked very strong, and there isn't a Braum or any other type of wind wall to deal with. So those calls of the Forge God will actually find their mark way more often in this game.
The belief is running strong here on the cast. I'm sure there are a lot of Resolve fans there ushering them in this potential victory too against Cloud9. Second seed, a big topic of conversation in UGP and Resolve's match against Golden Guardians in their second matchup when it was a best of 5 was the fact that whoever lost that was going to have to face off against the second seed. At the time, it wasn't known if it was going to be Cloud9 or Team Liquid. In this case, it was C9, but Resolve came into this knowing they would technically be on the unfavored end when it comes to the matchup and predictions, but they don't let it get to them. They take away game number 1. They keep themselves collected even when C9 was pushing some leads through. And now in game number 2 are hoping to repeat the fate that they had in spring and taking down the number 2 seed in their first series here of Proving Grounds.
Like this early game is a pretty solid comfort zone of Resolve. They don't have a whole lot of pressure in top lane. They have some to work with bot, but it's really about what they can do for APA and what APA can do for the map state. Because like I said before, Schernfire's likely to have a pretty tough time getting early camp invades unless he finds that first mark on the Scuttle 50. It could very well happen. But APA on the Syndra should be able to push in copy with the Corrupting Potion especially, and whenever he wants to, just make sure the copy has to stay underneath this turret. So we'll see if they can use that well and get Fnatic off the races.
And meanwhile, over on that bot side, King is going to be hoping to poke out Array as much as possible with a bit less sustain compared to some of the other bot laners, and he can suffer if he gets chunked down, but still, it is the supports that'll offer a lot of that presence here in the top lane, though. Darshan and PCL going at it once again, trading out the Renekton for the Jace. And on this Ornn, PCL just wants to make sure to minimize the loss of advantages as much as possible to serve for a tank for the rest of the team. But meanwhile, down mid, Copy gets collapsed upon by Fnatic and APA. Has to dash over the wall to get out, but keeps all sums intact.
That pressure that I was mentioning before, APA can just push in and make sure the Copy has to go for a recall. However, nice for Cloud9 that they do win the 50-50. They get a mark on a Fire, and they can potentially get a dive off top.
Trying
really
to go
hard.
for it. It's just some damage onto PCL, who dashes back under the turret range, really burned down, but Darshan is too, so he has to be careful, using the range of Jace to shoot out some waves, but that's the nice follow-up. Fire gets the kill before APA's teleport completes.
Wow. That play was really difficult to go for Cloud9, but they made it work just barely so. PCL not tanky enough underneath that turret and doesn't use his crowd control onto the enemies. He uses it to try to escape the damage, but doesn't end up doing so at all. Ends up getting taken out and has to walk right back to the lane. But again, we're seeing this pressure sent up to the top lane. Darshan has this really strong lead. It only matters if Cloud9 can win the game before PCL is scaled up on Ornn.
Yeah. Bringing back to game number one. Plenty of strength for Darshan, just on a different pick. And then Ornn, too much value later on when they got into the team fight. Some really good knockups with that Ornn Horn, getting everyone's items to that next level of upgrade too. And there are a lot of champs over on Resolve's side who won't mind a little bit of that assistance in that power area to really capitalize upon their existing strength. But the continuation of the pressing on forward, Darshan onto PCL, just wanting to get some more of the poke for himself. Both of them do have a biscuit in pocket, so we'll be able to stick around here on the top side to get their waves cleared. Darshan currently doubling what PCL has, as expected after the previous engage.
I like that attempt from PCL, just pressuring Darshan with some damage, knowing that if he doesn't do this and doesn't push Darshan off the wave, then exactly this will happen, where he has to overextend completely, actually get to the wave, but luckily his entire team is here, and the top side for Resolve.
Yep, both
hunting
supports
together.
The roaming begins already, right here on the top side. So with that, you obviously see that Array and King are just left to their lonesome down bot. Also the junglers and the supports over towards that top. So here in the mid lane, Copy and APA just going to continue chunking onto one another, knowing that those junglers could be nearby.
Top side of the map. We saw a very early Drake take by Fnatic in game one. Much earlier than the previous games that we got to see of Golden Guardians and Evil Geniuses, and much sooner than most teams would really like to go for it, but
Winter tries to come from the Tri-Bush side. Isles between the two. Root onto King. Flashes under his turret. Array just has another sliver, but a flash from Isles too keeps them safe. Expended the Ignite as well on both of these supports. All flashes except for Winter's taken out.
Array actually gets this nice honey fruit, well timed on that play to get some extra sustain. He can stay in this lane, and he has the blue gun Infernum, so he can clear out the wave if needed. Is being pushed underneath this turret. It's gonna be a reset though for King. He can come back onto the map, and as I was saying before, Fnatic really likes going for the early Drakes, and does look like they're doing it again right at 7 minutes. I don't think Cloud9 are really prepared for this at all. They did just go for a reset on the top lane, and again it's Resolve taking the early initiative on this objective.
Good timing and being at the ready from Fnatic to capitalize when those backs did come through, with King and Isles after that previous skirmish having two back at this point. So Resolve look to be continuing with the Dragon pressure that started them off previously. But C9 have a bit of this gold lead, just a tad. They across Darshan still maintaining that lead slightly, but I think PCL is doing a fine job of maintaining some level of presence there in the top. Previously talked about how he was able to dish out that poke towards Darshan too, so that he couldn't just have free farm over there on the top side. And then both Azir and Syndra are just wanting to position themselves for later in the game.
Real big gold lead for Cloud9 is coming from jungle. Surenfire with first blood and a nice streak that is about 6 camps in the lead, even going for the Rift Herald for himself. Just very gold focused, the jungle for Surenfire right now. And you have to be if you're Kindred. You are the sustained physical damage on your squad. Darshan and King are more poke-oriented, so you are the one who's likely going to have to deal with ECL on the horn. You have all this percent health damage, and you can auto-attack him to death as long as you are not getting crowd controlled to death instead. So Surenfire picking up this objective and keeping the camp lead is very, very valuable for him. He does already have 2 marks, but not too bad.
On a good track for getting to that 4 mark so that you can get that effective range. Has a Rift Herald now to be able to drop and affect one of these lanes, and we are still nice and comfy in that plated territory at only 9 minutes into this, so should be able to get some value later on. Over on the bot side, there are a couple deeper control wards that have been placed by Resolve here too. So the way that Array and Winter are pushed up, they can do so more comfortably with that extended vision, whereas most of the vision from Cloud9 are opted over towards that top river side, trying to make sure that if they want to push in with Darshan, they can do so effectively. And Surenfire getting himself an opportunity to back currently down here in the bot lane. Ooh. The hook onto Fnatic after he flashes in. King ends up getting burned down. Fnatic still manages to stay alive. Isles too low, has to escape here.
Flash death sentence from Winter onto King. It does get cleansed out, but still forces more pressure onto him, and they have so much damage thanks to the red-white guns of Array. The chakrams shred through your health bar if you have that combination, so Array putting in a ton of work there, and we saw the setup that was coming. If the play lasted slightly longer, then APA would have arrived as well. He just pushed in the wave, and Copy was busy getting a blue handoff, so Resolve setting up that play well in advance. As you mentioned before, they already had those control wards set up in the river. They have 4 of them now on the bottom side of the map. Resolve very clearly painting a picture of where they want to be, executing on it beautifully.
Yeah, I'm watching that back. This is the play that really shows where that priority wants to be. Both Fnatic and Winter had flashed forward for that one. And I think it's a good understanding of knowing that C9, they've been playing towards elsewhere on the map. They knew that the Rift was taken. Great setup of vision. So Resolve making sure to create advantages. Here's the TP coming in from Ornn. Darshan gets into the mix, though, to prevent that from happening.
That is unfortunate for PCL, as he's now under pretty heavy poke underneath his turret. No teleport either, so he likely will just have to give it up completely. I believe it is 3 plates at this time, but Jace has a ton of damage, and Surenfire, if he needed to, could just pop that Rift Herald up there. And looks like he is thinking about it. He's clearing out the vision. I don't even know if he needs to, though. PCL, no teleport. He can't get up this, and Darshan can just do this in his own time, really. He's up about that 50 CS mark that we mentioned before, and that teleport, it's just such a tragedy for PCL and the bot side play that Resolve are attempting.
It really is, considering that you can imagine the conversation had, hey, we're creating this lead towards bot. Let's try and push into that a bit more. You've got TP. Let's make a play. And it isn't something that they're able to follow through on, but nothing terribly lost in the moment, just the loss of an opportunity. Ooh. Copy going fully on in and uses the ultimate to try to get APA, but it's ineffective. Isles and Surenfire very responsive to try and follow up on that, but Fnatic is also here for potential answers.
I'll be honest, I did not know that Dredgeline did not go through an ally Azir ultimate. I absolutely did not know that interaction. Learning something new about League of Legends every day, as Isles learns the hard way, unfortunately for him, does not have his flash hook landing onto APA, and has to go back to the bottom lane in shame, but what a dodge from Array.
Array has been positioning very well. Into the Rapitum. Here's that Rift Herald here just to add some additional pressure from Cloud9. Liking in game number 1 too to drop that before they attempt to go for some skirmishes. Force the choice to be had, but a choice to be had here in the top lane. Darshan and PCL continuing to juke it out because that single plate that's just been hanging on here for that top turret, Darshan expertly had left, and Horn just being used to clear out some of the waves. But on the bot side, Cloud9 making sure to even out the dragons nice and early. They take the ocean.
Yeah, just going for a reset, and he can't get into this plate at all. Ray doesn't have any way to stick around either. He needs to go for a reset of his own to pick up this Gale Force, which he does now have. He has that positioning advantage to get out of some sticky situations, mostly brought upon by Isles on this Nautilus, so I like this purchase from him, but they're still giving up a lot of pressure top lane. And, well, Tigers, the big difference this time is that Cloud9 actually did break that entire thing. Darshan can leave and go somewhere else if he wants to and start breaking apart the rest of the map, which didn't actually happen in game 1. He stayed top the entire time and didn't use his advantage as widely spread as we would expect, but has that opportunity now.
Which is huge when he has that TP available. He's worked into the Eclipse. Churnfire also having completed his mythic here in the Kraken Slayer. So a lot of these tanky members on the side of Resolve will be easier to chunk through. And the quickness with which C9 can bring that pressure across the map, something they've been able to do effectively with Darshan in the past, who does have these games who can carry through. Can't be a win condition for them, but it was a Hex Flash over the wall from Winter, gets targeted by an ult and a hook and everything in between. Array tries to throw down with the ultimate, and so much damage from Array. Gets the double. Darshan here to try and answer, so it ends up being the 2 trade for 2 trade, but my, oh my, Array already coming online.
That was crazy from Array, and he only uses his flash. He tried to survive. Might have been able to do so against Darshan if he wasn't so strong in this game. CL also flashing away, as he knows he cannot win out in this fight, but Dark Passage is here.
No, let me get to Winter, please. Thank you very much. Copy says no. Let me shift the sands out of here. Thank you very much. Flash from Churnfire. Copy both having to use that to get under this turret. The Horn smashes on the bow. Look at that chunk of damage. Follow up from the rest of the team. Rima to get it. That burst to buy to push them all back. But Fnatic says, I don't care about what walls you put in my face. I'm going to stick my face under this turret to try and get some action going for us. 2 for 1 trade right now. Isles standing alone as a Nautilus. As low as Resolve are, Nautilus can't do much in the takedown territory in that dive, so he falls as well.
It's another kill for Resolve underneath that turret, and they give it over to the carry members again. PCL completely alright, dying for that trade. They get more damage underneath this turret. Oh, I'm so glad we're watching this. I want to see Array's damage come through yet again. Winter starts off this play on the wrong foot. I think that's fair to say. He did not realize that Isles would be in the area, but look at this AoE damage. Oh.
Moonlight Vigil hits real hard. Elio's sister coming in clutch. Darshan was there to be able to clean it up, but nonetheless, I mean, that just says what Array is going to be able to achieve on this Aphelios, and getting those 2 additional kills for himself to really start to extend his lead a bit more up in CS, up in kills, so therefore up in his fight against King in that regard. But second Rift Herald taken again by the side of Cloud9, and see where they end up bringing it the second time around. This was that top side play, though.
We get to watch this one again. This play underneath the turret is really solid. You can see Churnfire gets bursted so hard right away. It's a great thing he got to cast his ultimate in time, but Fnatic flashing past the Azir wall, gets underneath this turret, and gets to just split apart this fight. They did already lose Winter in this, so in the end it is only a 3 for 2 in favor of Resolve, and that's definitely a nice trade for them in the end. They get more damage on the top side turret too, and it's more favorable plays for Resolve than we were expecting with this gigantic gold lead for Cloud9. Still 4,000, but they're making these plays around where Darshan isn't, and that's something that they've done a great job in the entire series.
Punishing the fact that he had to use that teleport to get over towards that bottom side. And if you compare the last game to this one is a bit swifter in the executions, in the follow-up from both of the sides here. And even with that being said, though, still a slight gold lead, a few K actually over for Cloud9, being that they were able to get so much more impact on the plates. I'm not sure the final score there. Ooh, that was a big chunk, though, onto Darshan. So has to be wary of what can be dished out by Resolve. But yes, it was the overall laning from Cloud9 that allowed them to continue with a somewhat lead despite falling onto the losing end of some of these previous fights.
Laning in top lane, and also this jungle CS advantage, which is becoming monstrous for Fnatic to deal with, I will say. It's playing the support of Trundle, who spikes on this one item, and any other item after that is a luxury for this champion, but it's still something that you have to worry about for Schernfire, because he's the one who is scaling. He's the one who is that marksman that we mentioned before a few times. And Fnatic, it's not really his job to mitigate this, but it is his job to get more camps for himself and not just fall super, super far behind. So we'll see if he can bring that back for him, or maybe just go for more skirmishes as take out another turret, or their first turret actually for Resolve. They didn't actually take out the entire top.
Alongside APA able to finish off on that one, which is important for them if they're looking for ways to try and offset what Cloud9 have been building around Darshan. Because if you look at the previous game where it really got cracked open on both sides of the map, which is why we got so much chaos in the middle portion, because a lot of those outer turrets were taken down. And if Cloud9 were able to continue pushing through without having any answers on the turret side, then they would have had complete control of where they can get into these fights. And Resolve are the ones that want to be able to stick together and execute. But now, mid-turret falling in favor of Cloud9. Still heavy on the objectives.
I think we're in a unique spot in this game where both teams likely feel like they want to slow down the pace and they want to get the lane. Cloud9 scaling damage is huge. They have Kindred, they have Azir. These champions both want as many items they can get, and they can attack you with all they've got. At the same time, Resolve has Orange, and they've got Aphelios. So they're definitely no slouch in the late game either, and PCL, once you can start upgrading these items, is again a huge menace. Team Resolve are starting this turn. There's no blue trinket available. They've got red-white too. Just this.
A very, very fast attempt at Baron. APA had previously pushed in that turret, so maybe Cloud9 just think that, oh, they pushed in the turret, they backed, they wanted to go for a reset. Nobody is here checking it just yet.
Wow.
That's a Baron finished off by Resolve at 2040.
Look at all the vision pressure that they had in preparation for this. So many control wards in this river. Get out like bandits. This is insane for Resolve, and Cloud9 just get completely caught out. Left wondering how they let this happen. I'm wondering too.
And Schernfire had to drop that Rift Herald from the base, so that's been taking a long time to usher up. Winter hits the Blast Cone, so Schernfire is already taken out of this and thrown into the pit. And there, Rift Herald finally makes its way over towards this turret, but it's just such a long distance to travel with PCL and Fnatic both here to answer. And I don't think that Cloud9 were expecting this Baron play, and now the pressure that is going to ensue upon them.
For Resolve now, we will have to see if they can take out any structures with this. I feel like it's not necessary for them to do, because, like I said before, both teams likely are wanting to stall this game out. They want to just make sure they get all the gold that they can get, all the experience they can get, and then just wait for a team fight on their terms. But Resolve with this Baron, they do have that trump card as far as the siege threat is concerned. They can mount a huge attack in perhaps this mid lane as they're stacking array, this wave here, and just take out any structure that they want. They can get it.
Warren's still over on that top side, but the majority of Resolve are here around mid, still with full Baron empowerment. a little bit of a chunk onto Schernfire because Cloud9 just want to try and protect that turret as much as possible. A little bit of time as this next wave ushers in. But some just posturing from Resolve here around this mid area.
Cannon wave this time seems almost surely going to be theirs, unless Schernfire and Isles want to engage this, but it doesn't look like they do. Array has enough damage with the Gravitum shots out that turret, and this is already a favorable Baron for Resolve. I mean, it was initially too. They get a bunch of gold for it. A cool 1,500 gold is nothing to slouch at, but getting those structures and getting more pressure for the ensuing break fight is what they want at this point. And for BCL, he just wants to not be killed in this side lane, but turrets are going to be anyway.
Outer rim of turrets taken down on both sides now, tier 2 for Cloud9, and Resolve still with the Baron buff intact. It's 10 seconds until that next Drake spawns. They have 2 stacked up right now. It's a Cloud Soul that will eventually be reachable by one of these teams should they choose to do so. So this could be Soul Point for Resolve if they try to go for it, but looks like Cloud9 are already here, postured, available. They've got the control ward down. They started to establish vision. Teleport coming in from PCL over from that mid lane side. See who's going to make the first move.
Both teleports used very early on. They want to be here as soon as they possibly can just to get some traction through the river. PCL inching forward, gets a huge chunk of his space.
And decent poking back and forth. There's the Orn Horn. They're going to get some of the knockup. A knockup over in the backside and root onto RSV. But Isles is the one that is popped, so no more engaged here from the enemy as Cloud9 now struggle with that. But they are directly onto this dragon. Nobody from Resolve can actually step up to it. So while it's Resolve that gets the pick, it's C9 that gets the objective.
Finding a pick, and they find the flash out of Schernfire crucially there to force off that positioning, but can't help but feel that Cloud9 got the better end of that trade. Another turret specifically for Darshan too. The recently buffed gold acquisition on these inner turrets also, specifically in the side lane. You get 600 local gold just for killing that. So Darshan very strong now, just like on top of his ADCS lead. This guy has already 3 items, making his way towards a 4th. That's a full hex ring for now, just to stop the burst from APA.
You realize how ahead he's gotten when you look at how far he is into his build compared to some of the other players within this game, and just being able to chunk down onto those turrets. Cloud9 Academy continue to have a lot of map pressure at this point in time, though Resolve are just going to stick with what they have been doing before. The majority of them group sending somebody to a side lane with that teleport available if they need to come in, but there is no TP actually from PCL if he decides to get out. Instead, it's the 1v1 with Darshan. TP coming in from PA. It should be joining the fight. The Ornhorn blasted at the final moment, so at least the return kill is good with the Syndra here getting the value of it.
Rate of 1-for-1 is perfectly fine for Resolve there. They are taking out a huge chunk of the gold. We already mentioned how fed Darshan is in his items and in his pressure on the map. Now that he's gone, side lane threat is all for Resolve. They can push in this wave in the bot lane and potentially take out a full turret. Trundle is no slouch, even with no damage items. He can whale this away with that frozen domain, and that's exactly what he's going to do. Backing away now, you can see in the other side of the map, Winter and Array having to deal with the mounted attack of Cloud9 Academy, but they get out alive. No summoner spells used at all, and Resolve feel pretty solid about that trade.
I would definitely say so. They have been returning a lot of the turret pressure that Cloud9 were able to get after some of the previous fights that they had. And the fact that Array and Winter could keep all of their resources, all of their summons, all of their ultimates, even with Cloud9 hovering around that mid area and pushing up. So there wasn't really anything traded for the pressure that Resolve were offering here. Despite there being that gold lead for C9, so much of it being on the back of Darshan, it's still a lot of even footing and which team can pull ahead really at this point in terms of the overall game.
Another cool thing about that last pick is that APA hit his 10 Magi stacks mark, so he gets the extra movement speed on that one. This is a very fast Syndra on the map that Cloud9 have to
on a cloud
about.
map.
Yeah, very true. Cloud9 on a cloud map. Seems like this could be their home turf.
or curse them. Blackboard from Fnatic. Horn as a response. Knock up onto the ADC. That Surnefire Ben popped a great source of damage for Cloud9. No longer available to them, though Fnatic and Array were pretty chunked down, so they have to make sure they escape the range that people like Copy can bring to them. Now focusing their way over towards this Baron side, maybe just to get some more attention from Cloud9.
Oh, that blue trinket's really nice. They know that they're not actually on it, and it's really difficult for them to do.
Whoa! Goes for the scatter of the week onto Darshan, ends up getting flowed by the pillar as well. So the great follow-up and the knock from BCL to finish him off. Resolve a victory with the kill over the top laner. Surnefire still on the remainder of his death timer, though a lot still chunked down low nonetheless on Resolve. So they're going to go for the reset and force a reset for C9 too.
Solid picks, though, all the same. Resolve showing that they have that ferocity. Just activate the Shurelias and just go for it. They've got the pillar, they've got the lockdown, they've got the Syndra ultimate, and all this crowd control means the Surnefire can't even cast his ultimate in that play. Excellent stuff from Resolve, and they will need to keep that one going moving forward. You saw, though, they made the right call around the Baron. They can't actually start that one up because Darshan and King are still alive, and Copy still has ultimate, too. Way too much damage was accessible for Cloud9 into this pit, so Resolve making the great call of sticking around outside of the pit, go for another pick, and that's exactly what they get.
Now everyone immediately goes towards that dragon side. Surnefire caught by the death sentence, slowed by the box. The follow-up of the E from King dishes out a lot to finish off Winter, but look at that burst onto Darshan and Isles. Force it back out of it. TCL's in pursuit. Copy slowed, flashes to the back. Uses the get burst divide, but a nice stasis from APA to avoid that shuffle backwards. Surnefire marked out of this fight pretty much. Copy left to his own devices. That is Resolve coming out with the 1-for-1 there in the final moments, and they themselves positioned closer to that dragon for the immediate rotation.
Yet another successful pick for Resolve. They give up Winter, but it's perfectly okay as long as you're taking out that magic damage source of Copy. No Shurima Shuffle, no Lamb's Respite to cover this. It's another dragon for Resolve. They're one away from that soul. Give them a bunch of movement speed in these fights. We already touched on how fast APA is. Imagine how fast he's going with that soul. It's gonna come online potentially for Resolve in 5 minutes. And APA has just been crushing these team fights. So much damage with the upgraded Luden's Tempest. You can't do anything about it. As long as you're getting hit by the Dark Spheres, you are dead.
Truly such a threat at this point in the game, and you know how crucial it can be on someone like Syndra. Throw out a scatter of the wheel, all of a sudden you just stop somebody in their tracks, whether it's Surnefire or, as we saw in one of the most recent fights onto Darshan, just burst somebody down, and there's so much follow-up from people like Array, from the rest of the squad, to really take advantage of it. So this is, again, a game where that lead that Cloud9 has had in gold hasn't extended by any means. It's been pretty much stabilized. What we are seeing is all of these picks coming through. A pick from C9, they're positioned towards Drake, they take it. Resolve answering with the kill later on, they take the next Drake. And just so much trading back and forth that puts this game in such an exciting place.
More than stabilized the gold lead, I'd say, for Resolve. They do have a nice set of horn items completed. They even have another one they can go for, as you can see on his level 16, but instead they want to fight.
Yep, they're going for more. Another horn, this time onto King. You take out the ADC, you take out the support, maybe take out Surnefire once again. Not blasted down to 0 HP, but effectively out of the fight, and Copy and Darshan separated into the enemy jungle. Now Resolve, all completely alive and intact, turn their attention towards this Baron. Darshan and Copy, as well as Surnefire, are cycled around if they choose to try to go for some stopping of this, but Winter flashing over the wall, gets the play, misses by the death sentence, with a pop from APA, it's just too strong. Darshan slams onto PCL, can probably get the trade before going down himself, but eventually Resolve finds the kill. Copy still on the outskirts of this pit, but there's a control ward keeping him in the sights of Resolve. APA at the ready with the E. Should he keep them all on the Y side of this fight? Resolve continuing to take control, getting the last kill, and my oh my, are they looking and feeling good.
Only one member of Resolve dies, and they get that full Baron this time around. So much pick threat on this team, Latigris. Watch what Fnatic does to King. He can't move. He's pinned against the wall with the pillar. He can't get through, and it's such an easy pick from there. What a creative use of the Pillar of Ice from Fnatic, and then from then on out, it's just a wild goose chase. All the members of Cloud9, they know that they can't easily get into the pit, and Surenfire gets one shot by APA.
Ugh.
Oh my god.
That damage that we have seen every single time these fights happen, it feels like APA is just that much stronger. And obviously, Darshan has some strength of his own, even taking down PCL. But PCL did everything that he possibly needed to in that fight. He was okay sacrificing his life. And even here, just a little extra consolation to take out Copy. But it's the second Baron for Resolve. They're already pressured up onto the outskirts of this base. There's no inhibitor down in that mid lane. The supers have begun to spawn, and once again, just finding so much confidence within their picks here. Oh, that's a big hit from Jace, but still, Winter just gonna back out of it for now.
There's a lot of poke available for Darshan and King, so if they can land that, then maybe they can dissuade another inhibitor turret from going down. Used on the PCL.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of utility used onto the PCL there. He now activates his ultimate. Surenfire already blasted his down too, and the Emperor's Deride used to get the enemies out of the safe space. They can't necessarily follow up with any kills onto Resolve just yet. Cloud9 really want to try and protect this turret, but what can they do? You got two cannons here with a Baron buff. You got 5 members of Resolve. Yeah, a couple of them are chunked down, but they've got that sustain. They've got all of the capability within their hands. Cloud9 forced to just protect their resources as much as possible.
Everyone running out for Resolve. The teleports are there for Darshan and Copy if they want to make a flank, but they know that it is not well advised. They can't actually win a team fight. They just have to watch all the members of Resolve take a reset and come back clambering onto the Rift to potentially lock in their 4th Drake for the Soul. Cloud Soul on the ready. Resolve APA teleported just to get in here slightly earlier. They already have that control word in this Pixel Brush. Let's see if they can actually get here in time. It's burning so fast.
It really is. Cloud9 got here first. They go for the burn and eventually get the objective, but the fight is initiated by Resolve. A hook over the wall onto Copy. What a great kill! What a great pick off here from Winter to get that going. Oh, the root and the burst damage to follow up, though. Cloud9 do get the trade back onto the support. Oh, my goodness.
It's an insane hook over the wall. They are. And Resolve are about to be too. They already killed Copy. That's a huge portion of the wave clear. They're barreling their way into this. Resolve, they don't really have much better to do. There's no objectives. They're going to try to end the game.
At this point, you might as well. 3 of them. There won't be any teleports available. Nobody can come to this fight from those that are actually dead at this point. Surenfire, once again, already dealt a bunch of damage. Darshan, with the shield, can that save you? Knock up onto Isle. Tries to throw a little bit of stun from his passive on back. But
they're doing it!
It's Cloud9 that are falling. It's Resolve that are coming
They
out
did it!
on top. Cloud9 dissolved by Resolve, who take them down 2-0 here in Proving Grounds.
Resolve is too broken in the round 1 of Proving Grounds, Latigris. They just 2-0'd Cloud9 Academy after in spring doing the same thing to Team Liquid. How? How is this team doing this again?
They did it.
What?
We saw it with our eyes. It happens. They are the kryptonite of the number 2 seed in Proving Grounds across all of 2021 so far. And in the end, teams like Resolve, you know what makes them so fun to watch? Is just trusting when they're together. That pack mentality. It did not matter what Cloud9 did early on, because Resolve believed if we stick together and get a pick, we can always make something happen off of it.
My heart is pounding right now. This is what Proving Grounds is all about. The amateur teams coming in and showing up, finding these ridiculous upsets. That is the entire event, and Cloud9 Academy now have to fight their way through the lower bracket. How ridiculous is that? They haven't even won a game yet in all of Proving Grounds because Resolve are just so strong as a team in these team fights and these late game decisions that they're going for. From the depths of all of these deficits that they find themselves in, they still make it work with sheer team fight and team play and teamwork. Everything. They just scream team. And they are so good at it, so fun to watch. I can't believe we just got it again.
Resolve just undeniably on paper the underdogs coming into this matchup. Number 2 seed from Academy, Cloud9. A lot of success under their belt over the previous years. Resolve, on the other hand, have been struggling somewhat. They took a lot of action as a team to get ready for this event, to get ready for UGP before, making sure to take a break and really reset the atmosphere of their scrims as a team, make sure that they're all feeling good on the same page. And I think it truly showed here in the later portions of the game.
Oh yeah, it definitely showed. This is the form that Resolve have been striving to accomplish the entire split long. It's really arrived in the nick of time right now as they make their way into that upper bracket. I love watching these plays back over too, because you can see exactly what they're saying in all of these fights. You can see every single moment. Oh, our whole team, we have to do this. We have to get into this bush. We have to wait for them. Don't go for the Baron. They will kill us. And it works so well. And look at the next pillar again. What do you do if you're king? This has got to feel so sad.
That was the perfect example of what they were trying to do to King time and time again, because we've seen those pillars to try and cut him off, really punish the lack of mobility that he had, but that was just perfect. The smallest area he could possibly have to try and escape under the depths of that slow, and just having that terrain locking him in, it felt more like a prison than a pillar.
APA was dealing so much damage on Syndra too. This guy really crushed it on this pick. And I mean, he's got the Medjai's like super early into this game. You know he's feeling it. You know he's feeling himself on this pick, especially after they've given him the respect of banning Aurelion Sol in both of the games. This has got to feel wonderful. Like, yeah, you thought you were banning out my one trick. No. I'm smurfing on these other champions too. Just watch.
And this is one of those great days where both of our series, it feels like all of the players on the winning side had some moment to show out, because even PCL, right, put in a tough position, playing the Ornn into Darshan, and Cloud9 didn't make it easy for him. They expelled so many resources up there during the top side. You know that Darshan is going to play that very aggressively, but PCL just sticking in it, dealing with the dives, making sure that he was there at the ready whenever he was needed for the rest of the team. And I think that Resolve, in the end, having a 2-0, this wasn't a 2-1. This wasn't something that they narrowly, skirted by. They knew what their strengths were, and they relied upon them, executed, and got the victory off of a team that was getting leads early on.
And the leads early on are not unnoticed, I would say. Cloud9 did a great job in the early stages of the game, but they just couldn't quite close it out. And all these members of Resolve, I mean, it takes such a strong mental, like individually for a player like PCL, but also just the whole squad to see how far behind you are in that early stage and just not care at all. You just go into that late game completely fine and take the win. The 2-0, both games were like that. Oh my word.
Crazy games here from Resolve, and I think it's about time we hear from one of the players themselves here in the Verizon post-game interview. We've got Winter joining us, the support for the victorious team. Whoa. All right. I was not expecting to see the Cloud9 merch. Tell me then, what does it mean to you to take down Cloud9 Academy in such a fashion, Winter?
I mean, it felt good for sure. I mean, I believe that we can beat anyone, so it doesn't really matter in the end, but as long as we perform every day, should be good.
Yeah, it was pretty convincing. So you just did this twice in a row. In Spring Proving Grounds, you took down Team Liquid Academy, the second seed, in 2-0 fashion, and now 2-0 against Cloud9, the second seed in Summer. Are you guys just the actual kryptonite of the second seed in these tournaments, or what? What's in the water here?
I just think we put ourselves some goals, and every time we need to fight the second seed team, just smash them. But after that, the little fish, we just crumbles and we just lose. So it's unlucky.
Well, it looked like everyone from Resolve really working together to get these wins in this series. And I know it's been a bit of a roller coaster for you and the rest of the team. Fnatic talking in multiple interviews about how you took some breaks before getting back into competitive play, resetting the atmosphere. Can you tell me a bit more what that has been like, making sure everyone can feel ready for the competition here today?
Oh yeah. For like the beginning of the first three tournaments, we were really struggling with our synergy and the way we wanted to play the game in general. And after the last tournament, we just decided to drop the ego and just work out on our mistakes and try to change the environment. And we brought up a secret coach to help the bot lane, and he really helped me in general to improve as a player. Like I believe I got unlucky by that. Even if I went psycho mode in the second game, running it down on the turret bot lane, but
So you mentioned that your entire team has had to drop the ego. I feel like Pie Lord really took that to heart up in the top lane, playing Orin in both of those games. Did you have to? Did you have to like calm him down? Was he really upset about this game, or was he just completely stalwart, just ready to scale and be the team fighting Orin in the late game?
uh, I mean, in the draft he just said, "Pick me Ornn here. He looks pretty good." So we just picked it, and he performed with his ultis and goes Dim Horizon at 20 minutes both
Yeah.
game, I believe. So yeah.
Yep. TCL had to play with a lot of patience on the Orin, but these were two games where Cloud9 did have leads. Yeah, get you right back in the frame. There we go. Get that face in there. But as you get centered in the frame, Cloud9 did have leads in some of these games. So can you tell me about what comms are like for you and the rest of the team when you know that they're executing some level of control, but believe in yourselves and your ability to bring it back?
So I believe in the last like 2 weeks we really found our footing. Even when we are behind, we are still trying to win the game. And even if they were kind of ahead both games, I still felt like we were ahead in my heart. So we could make some plays like the Baron pull second game. Like I
Yeah.
feel like they were just not respecting it at all, and like our tempo was really bad. But so I just said, let's do Baron, and if they respond with TP, it's perfect because we want to engage on them with Ornn ulti anyway.
Yeah, that was definitely awesome. So for you guys as Resolve in the last tournament, you beat the second seed, and then you went on to play what was statistically the strongest amateur team in No Org. You now have the opportunity to do that again against Wildcard Red as your next opponents. What are you feeling about that matchup in the next week against Wildcard?
Um, I just believe that Wildcard is a bottom but side team. Like they play
Yeah.
around arrow pretty good, and I believe if we shut him down, it should be pretty easy. I believe 2-0, except if it's BO5, of course. But
Well, we are all looking forward to tuning into that match. It should be a good one. Winter, thank you for stopping by for this interview and congratulations again on your victory here today.
thank you.
Ooh. Whew, what a day we have had, Smacks. We got the 2-1 from Evil Geniuses and Golden Guardians. We got the 2-0 upset from Resolve against Cloud9. I feel like we have been delivered a nice little gift just for us in the audience.
And we even got the winter view, so to top off the day. It's been a wonderful day.
And the Cloud9 get up too.
Yeah, that was hilarious. What a genius. Comedy genius Winter. I love him so much. What a
nice,
guy.
Subtle.
And, yeah. I mean, it wasn't exactly subtle, but
True. I just wonder, is he wearing that the whole time?
Yeah.
Is there, it reminds me of there's a basketball player, Jason Terry, that a few years back when he used to play would wear the gym shorts of the opposite team the night before he would play them. So I'm like, does Winter have some kind of strategy of his own? Got to wear the jersey of the opponent just to make sure that he has that mental in his head that I'm just about to own them and make them mine.
He needs a wild card red jersey now. We'll see if he can make that one happen. Yeah, huge congratulations to Resolve though. It's a crazy upset. I'm really happy with that one. Of course, I'm not meaning to root for a single team, but it's just always really cool to see the amateur teams take wins in Proving Grounds, especially over the academy counterparts. I mean, that's what Proving Grounds is all about. The only Proving Grounds tournament so far, an amateur team has won. So hey, maybe Resolve are gonna make that a repeat.
I know that we'll all be sticking along for the ride to see if that ends up happening. Smacks, as we are at the end of our day, any last thoughts on you reflecting upon today's matches or the entirety of the week, as this is the conclusion of week number 1 of LCS Proving Ground Summer?
Yeah, it's been an awesome week. We've had some really fun upsets. I'm super excited to see the rest of Proving Grounds. I'm going to be, if not on the broadcast, I'm going to be in the Twitch chat and the YouTube chat for the whole way through. I hope everyone else is as well. This tournament is just, it's what NA development's all about. It's so awesome, and I'm just such a big fan of all the Proving Grounds players and teams and everyone involved with it. So I'm really thankful to be on the broadcast here with you, and I'm thankful to be a part of the ride as always. It's a great time.
Yeah, thankful to everyone participating in this, bringing us joy, and thankful to you, Smacks. It was fun casting with you for the first time here today.
Yeah, I had a great time. It was a really fun time. We should do that again sometime.
Yeah, let's do it again sometime. Everybody that's watching, let's do this again sometime too. Proving Grounds action continues. Next week should be kicking off on Thursday for all of that week 2 action. You know, we still got the winners bracket continuing on, and we've got officially teams dropping to that lower bracket and eventually going to be on the brink of defeat out of the event in its entirety. But as far as the broadcast itself here today, thank you so much for tuning in to LCS Proving Grounds Summer 2021. My name's Tigress. This is Smacks. Am I going the right way? Yep, that's Smacks. So on behalf of the broadcast crew, the talent, and everybody that is here and a part of the event, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next week for more Proving Grounds action. Until then, everybody, good morning, afternoon, evening, and good night.